Friends, today I am going to explain the logging 10,000 years into the future. All eyes from Jai Dao were on him. The old man walked slowly forward. Since his master had just forced the army to bow its head, it was only fair for him to assert his authority as well. The group then began walking toward Lu Sheng. The blue-haired man stared at him, standing completely still, and remarked that they might have overestimated him. Watching Lu Sheng's trembling body, the group couldn't help but chuckle. The man said Lu Sheng was so scared he'd lost his mind. Killing him now wouldn't even take more than a second. A woman chimed in, saying with their lord present, even the entire military would bow, and even the marshal would lower their head. It was no surprise Lu Sheng was shaking like this. By now, the group was only a few steps away from Lu Sheng. The old man called out his name again, but Lu Sheng just clenched his fists tightly. The blue-haired man raised an eyebrow, curious if Lu Sheng was still thinking about fighting back. With a casual wave of his hand, he conjured a weapon from his powerful aura, only to be told by the old man telling him to finish it quickly. No need to tarnish their dignity by dragging it out. The blue-haired man smirked, confidently saying even if Lu Sheng wasn't terrified, it wouldn't take him more than 3 seconds to finish this. With that, he charged at Lu Sheng, descending from the sky with his weapon aimed to strike. But then, he heard something, catching him off guard. The voice tells him that the trembling wasn't out of fear. Before he could even process what was happening, he thought he saw Lu Sheng smiling. The voice continued, saying it wasn't fear but excitement that was making him tremble. Before he could react, Lu Sheng casually swung his fist. And in an instant, half the man's body was completely blown off. His expression froze in disbelief. He didn't even know what hit him. All he could hear was someone calling his name. His weapon slipped from his hand as he began falling into the sea. The old man was shocked and started to say something. But before he could finish, a streak of golden light zipped through the crowd. It passed the 3 of them in a flash and headed straight into the rest of the group. When Lu Sheng reappeared, he was already behind them. One of them managed to glance back just before his head slipped off his neck, wondering when did he even, the other 2 weren't so lucky. Their heads had been twisted completely backward before they could think. The old man muttered to himself, realizing too late that he was already dead. And in the next second, all their heads flew into the air. The last thing they all thought before darkness consumed them was the same. Lu Sheng, he's terrifying. Their remains fell into the sea, their blood painting the surface red, as droplets continued to fall from Lu Sheng's hands. He knew for a fact that if Zhao Jai himself had stepped in, it would have been almost impossible to kill anyone else. That's why he went all out and finished everything even before the martial saint could react. Right now, Lu Sheng was cooking. He was in his martial god form, activated immortal body, nature's breathing technique, and his perfect martial path is in full swing. And let's not forget all 22 of the immortal cells. The Eastern Marshal stood frozen, staring at Lu Sheng in shock. He couldn't help but think, was this overwhelming killing intent the true extent of Lu Sheng's power? In mere moments, he had managed to kill so many top-tier great grandmasters. The other marshals, standing in stunned silence, gazed at the blood-streaked sea below. Among the carnage, only one person was alive. The blue-haired man, now missing half his body, trembling and forgetting his pain and sheer terror. He stretched a desperate hand toward the martial saint, pleading him to save him. The central marshal couldn't believe what he was witnessing. While great grandmasters typically possessed life forces far beyond ordinary humans, and sometimes, even with their heads chopped off, they could still remain alive. But the murderous energy pouring from Lu Sheng's attacks had completely obliterated their chance of survival. The blue-haired man continued to cry out for help, but Zhao Jai seemed momentarily stunned by the sheer scope of the massacre. Suddenly, he dashed towards the sea below. The blue-haired man crawled toward Zhao Jai, hope flickering in his eyes as he neared his lord. Just when he thought hope was within reach, a hand fell on his head from above. It was Lu Sheng. The man's lips trembled, barely managing to utter, "My lord." But before he could finish, blood sprayed across Zhao Jai's face as Lu Sheng smiled at him. Lu Sheng the mocked Zhao Jai, telling him all of his dogs are dead. He said this out loud, loud enough for everyone to hear. A collective shiver ran through everyone as they gulped nervously, all thinking the same thing. Lu Sheng is an absolute maniac. As his life force began fading, the blue-haired man couldn't understand why he had died. Even with his lord right in front of him, had he met this fate, why couldn't the martial saint save him? Lu Sheng tossed the head aside as though it were trash and locked his eyes on Zhao Jai. The martial saint, wiping the blood off his face, muttered coldly, "Good, very good." In the next moment, an overwhelming aura surged from him. "It's been 100 years since someone made me this angry," he said, as he slowly took a few steps forward. Behind him a pair of massive golden hands materialized. With each step, the golden figure took on a more complete form, and this was Zhao Jai's martial avatar. Zhao Jai took another step and spatially tells our boy he's done well, very well. Lu Sheng responded with nothing but a light chuckle. Then, with a smirk, pointing his middle finger forward, he says, "Fuck you. If you have guts, then try to stop him." Friends, the video ends here. To see what is going to happen in the next video, you guys must subscribe to the channel. So guys, Daily Manhwas gave me a fake copyright strike, so fuck you Daily Manhwa.